said, this is a continuation of last time, but probably a few weeks ago. Most of you, I think, were here, and you got to hear what we went through. We had a fun time doing a brainstorming session and taking the little yellow sticky notes and putting them up on the flip chart and trying to figure out this problem that's stated right up here. It's a question as well as just a problem. We've got roughly 40 to 45 members, and any one time since we've had these two clubs, Project Manager Toastmasters clubs, probably at the most 50 members between the two clubs. And we've had PMI Houston membership population of 3,800, 4,000, quite a few. And it turns out this statement here is saying that we've got around 1% or less of the total PMI members that are in Project Manager Toastmasters clubs. And I said last time we also found out that we've got several PMI Houston members that are members of other Toastmasters clubs that are not Project Manager clubs. And I want to get those people not to go leave their club, but to come to one of our clubs. But the question from last time was, what do we do to get more of those engaged? We did that brainstorming session, and tonight I want to just go through, and I've summarized all those little sticky notes for you. I'll go through it on the slide deck here, but I'll also have a handout for you to go through and look at those. Our goal tonight is to, of the 3 groupings that we've got, which you'll see here, out of all those sticky notes, this is the 3 groupings that we had. The goal is for us tonight to vote and pick one of these 3 based on that backup information for each one of those 3 major groupings here. Social media, employer, employee related, and PMI venues. That's how we grouped them. And you probably, some of this you'll recall from the last time when we had this brainstorming session. So I'll have Ruth just pass these around, and again, it's this, the 3 groupings and the details behind each one of these groupings. So I'm going to have Mary help me with the time here so we don't run over, but by the time we get to a certain point in this, we'll be needing to take a vote. And it's just going to be an open discussion until then to see what we think about these 3 groupings and what's the best of these 3. That's the first vote. The best of these 3 that we can use and think that would engage more project managers to come to Toastmasters Club. You know, we've had a lot of membership drives, open houses, things over the 5 years our clubs have existed to try to get more people involved. We've stayed around that average of 40 to 50 people. And so I wanted everybody last time to think out of the box, to go and think, what can we do differently than what we've been doing over the last 5 years to get more of these 3,800 members engaged. At the end of this, I'll share with you another idea that didn't come up in our brainstorming session last time. All right, social media. If you look on your handout, the first page, this is the details behind the social media and some of the yellow sticky note ideas that you had. Trade blast, an email blast. Set up the Meetup is another social media type of thing, and Meetup, and some of our Toastmasters clubs in the district are using that. Strategies directed at young adults, the millennials. How do we get those people engaged? An article on the PMI Houston website about Toastmasters. We have an ongoing something in the newsletter for our Toastmasters clubs, but this is more about an idea around the article, a little bit more lengthy information. Develop a webcast showing the value to PMs, and publish something in the Houston Magazine. I guess Houston Magazine, I haven't familiar with that, but they probably are using an electronic form, and there may be social media related to that. So we ended up putting this under social media. Electronic communication is probably a better way to say it. So keep this all in the back of your mind. These are the 6 details for social media. Go to the next page. Employer-employee related. We had 4 ideas for that. Virtual meetings for remote club members. Bill, Jack, Benji, out of this club, we see them gone a lot. Benji, I think, brought this one up about being able to Skype and do remote into participating in the meetings. Success stories. Rashid brought up this one about employee testimonies about their job hiring and promotion because of Toastmasters. Whoever has the best story wins. Tell the best stories. That was the idea. I don't know what was behind that idea, and we can talk about that a little bit more. Target market, specific businesses in Houston that have a large number of PMs, advertise within those companies or have a demo meeting within those companies. Those are the 4 ideas for employer-employee. Okay. Next page. PMI venues, 4 ideas for that. Dinner meeting speakers, emphasize the speaker as a Toastmaster. I think we've been doing that, Jim, as far as telling them that this free meeting or whoever the speaker is, if they are Toastmaster, to emphasize that. The club demo meeting at dinner meeting, emphasize the earning the PDUs for those PMs who are certified. So I think in the past, I think Bill may have been involved in this too. We've had, I think, at the venues, a Toastmasters demo meeting. We do it at the conference. We've done it in the conference in the past. I think we've done it at one of the venues before. So that's a really good idea to do that.
It's been done at both of them. Lee was part of one.
Both the main venues.
We did them at both of them. We originally started the clubs, but I'm not sure about after that.
Yeah, I don't know, and I think it's probably a good thing as a refresher now that we've been at this for about 5 years to go and do it again. Table topics format for number 3, addressing real life project issues. Have several PMs addressed it in a table topics format at the venue. I think that's a good idea too. And then start a focus group that will reach out to PMs at businesses or PMI venues to get their reasons why they are not in Toastmasters. And that's all the employee related. So as you look at your handout, what I want you to do is think, let's discuss for a few minutes, any questions about any of those 3 groups, so that our first decision out of this group discussion is to get a consensus, or at least a majority, on which of those 3 would be best to engage more PMI Houston members in Toastmasters. On the first one, social media. Mary, you have a comment?
So our goal is to choose one out of all of these?
No.
One of
3 groupings. That's our first decision. Our problem-solving decision today is, again, how to engage more PMI Houston members. The 3 main groupings, I want us to decide on one of those 3 as the most effective method, effective group that could get more engaged members. And then after that, we're going to get back to what Mary was asking about behind those, that one group, there's several items we can pick from that. Because out of all this, guys, we're going to end up having to have somebody take these actions and do something with it. This is not just hypothetical stuff here. You want to get more PMI members engaged, we're going to have to take some actions on whichever one that gets chosen here. Okay, so social media. I'm not taking a vote yet. I'm just wanting to open it up for discussion. Any questions about those 6 items that you saw there?
So under social media, so we're really focused more on the PM clubs. But have you thought about going to others like IT environments or health, because they are always looking for getting better. So it's not just focused on the project management side, but they have project management inside of their business.
Sure. Yeah, and PMI being just for any type of work, right? Construction, healthcare, IT, any of it. Mm-hmm. We're trying to cover all that in our business, right? So, yeah, IT or medical, how do you get those people engaged in a PMI Toastmasters Club? That's my question. That's the problem. I think you're trying to pose a different way of trying to not focus necessarily on PMI. Is that correct?
No, inside of each industry, they have PMs, right? They have project management. So, and they have magazines, they have publications, so we can publish on that area too, but with their support. For example, we have Microsoft coming in March or this year here to Houston, and I think that's a good presentation for the clubs. And
so you're adding another idea onto what we're talking about? What is your point? Are you have a question, or are you trying to make a point about
Okay, so I'm more off. Sorry. I just love that because here it's very saying that it's more like
It looks, Lee, like you're trying to broaden the scope
Correct.
from
Yes.
PMI to a broader base of Toastmasters
Professionals.
viability. I think the purpose of Bruce's Project 2, that he's now moved into Project 3, is that we've focused on an area that two particular clubs has been sponsored by, but yet those sponsor chapter has 3,800 members and we're getting 45. So how do we get a better focus in that area? It doesn't mean we want to ignore the other areas, but within a pool of 99%, that we're not touching, how could we go about touching it? So narrowing the problem down to a manageable discussion, and then determine tonight out of the 3 areas of focus, what would be our best way to kind of address that focus and bring forth a better saturation of the PMI community for these 2 particular clubs. TMI in general has a much, much broader, many more industries that don't have anything to do with project management. Although as a project manager, I don't know where that would be, somewhere.
So thanks, Bill, for that, helping clarify that. So again, my question is, we are going to have a vote in a few minutes on picking which one is the most effective of these 3 to engage more of that 3,800 members that we have in the Houston area. I've covered social media. You kind of look through and see some of the details there, what the backup is for social media group. Let's go on to the next one, employer. Yes,
I have a,
good time for discussion, questions, yes, go ahead first.
I have a question. If the person is in PMI Houston already, I'm sure they're on LinkedIn too, right?
I'd say there's a high saturation of LinkedIn
LinkedIn,
within the PMI community.
okay.
Yes.
LinkedIn, last time we checked, had about 450 of the members, so that's only got 15%
Yeah.
of the population in it.
The sister club that we have has a LinkedIn site. We tried to do it for both clubs together. I think it gets around 200. And I think, Lee, you're referring to the PMI.
I'm talking about the
LinkedIn.
PMI Houston
Right.
LinkedIn group, not the Toastmasters.
Right, and I'm just letting her know it's a similar kind of a thing.
Yeah.
We got 3,800, but there's only about 200 that are on the LinkedIn for the Toastmaster clubs, which is really good. You
Which
get
is-
200 of those people there.
That's
Something
4 times
else.
as many as we have members.
Well, but also, the focus is, last year's the attendance for the Houston conference was about 600, if I remember correctly.
Yes.
Somewhere along about that. So 600 is still keeping less than 20%, so it's 16 to 18%. So the question is not even just limited to our 2 clubs, although we are focusing for our own personal benefits to the 2 clubs. Across the board, why do all these members not further become active members versus passive members?
I will say, out of the 3,800, again, I'll emphasize, we've got a lot of those that are PMI members that are in other Toastmasters clubs. I haven't discovered them all, but there's several of them out there. I think Kurt was next.
I was just going to suggest for strategies directed at young adults, you just mentioned LinkedIn. What about Facebook?
Social media, it's
Okay.
there. We have a Facebook account
Okay.
for our Toastmasters clubs, and at the international level and district level, there's Facebook social media there. So, Bill, I think you're.
I think you're.
Looking at the employee, from that standpoint, we can capture more people to Toastmasters through the employer and the employee process. Each person who has employment has to work. They are there. They are project managers there. Facebook and social media is great, but everyone has to go to a particular job. If we can target the employer And maybe we can target the employer through social media. That would also help. But that's a viable solution, using the employer who has more emphasis and effort in dealing with the employee. We can capture more people through that process, and then utilizing social media, that would also help. So I do believe if we was to somehow target the employers, they would, and get the message to the employers, that message will filter down to the employees, and we can capture a good audience of project managers and bring them to the table.
Good point. Bill, you were next.
Yeah, I've got actually,
Last comment. Go ahead.
yeah, I've got actually 2 points. One is, within the greater 202 clubs in Houston, that is already happening. I would say most major project management-based corporations either have or are affiliated with corporate Toastmaster clubs.
Corporate sponsor.
One of my clubs, and actually a lot of people here have been to my corporate club I started. We have 37 members, and of the 37 members, 21 of them are PMI members, and 17 are in project management directly, the rest are in engineering directly. So first of all, I think that saturation is already working, not necessarily as well as possible for us
Right.
in general. But with that, I want to make a comment about social media. I'm not an absolute great fan of social media, but I'm the recipient of our contacts from our web base, and I do not get contacts from Facebook or LinkedIn, although both of them have Toastmaster links and we are indicated on. But I do get from Toastmasters, so it's almost like they have to go looking for Toastmasters, and then when they find the PM role there, they tend to grow with it, or they find the location they like, and then they tend to go with it. So if we're going to use social media, I think we have to find some way to catch the attention better. And I like combining a couple of those things, meaning a webcast or a short video that tells you basically how it's done, or something of that nature, maybe a slightly longer one for a very short demo of it, but it's not grabbing them just to be there.
Right,
You
it's
have to
not-
find something to hook them.
Exactly. I understand what you're saying, Bill. So there can be, when we get to decide on the main group, which is now, I think, Lee, you had a comment, you got something quick before we vote?
Yeah, it's just real quick. Bill covered most of what I was gonna say, but I was gonna say on the employer focus, when we've got a lot of that going on in the district, but almost all of them are what we would call an open club in the district. Those people, because they start a club in the corporate location, they aren't gonna come to one of these,
Right.
but they're still gonna get the benefit of the Toastmasters with lots of project management.
Yes.
So, although that's an excellent avenue, it won't populate these clubs as much. I don't think it's high probability of populating these clubs, so, although it's valuable, I don't see it. For
Yeah.
your purpose for this conversation, I don't see it as a main
That's
thing.
correct. And Bill, he just added on to what I was saying about there is a lot of project managers out there in corporate clubs, other Toastmasters clubs besides these. I don't want to take those members away from those Toastmasters clubs. The question is, how are we going to engage more of those members for RPM clubs? Okay, I want to see a raising of the hands, and my vote counter, Kurt, if you would help keep it honest here. We're gonna go through these 3 groups. You've seen the details. How many of you would like to see the focus be social media? Raise your hand.
Excuse me, Bruce, I have a question.
Okay.
I think it's too late.
Well, it may be, but we're voting on a future project that you're wanting to do though, right?
We'll get to how we're gonna take care of the action. This is just now for the problem-solving part of it. We're trying to figure out what we think is the best way to engage more of those.
And did we discuss PMI venues?
Yes, we did.
We
Okay.
did.
Okay.
Yeah, under the last.
Well, the first pass.
Okay.
Yes.
Not in the second pass.
We haven't for the vote yet. Okay, raise the hands again for social media. Kirk, I'll let you count, track there.
There's somebody behind you.
Yeah, we're not gonna go, yeah, we don't wanna duplicate your vote. To do one vote, pick one of these three, each other, want to see which one has the most.
No double dipping.
No double dipping. Employer, employee, raise your hand. Got it, Kirk. And last, PMI venues. Vote for that one.
Okay. I have the votes.
Okay. As facilitator, I'm supposed to remain neutral, but I didn't want to put a vote in for the. And the most is,
Number 2, employer, employee with 6. And then there's a tie for second with both have 5 votes. Numbers 1 and number 3.
okay, all right, so we got the first part of our goal done, employer, employee. I'm not going to limit the employer, employee details that are listed here as to how we go engage the members. These were just some ideas you came up with. We could pick 1 or 2 of these. The remaining time I have here is to just let you know that after the meeting, we're not going to try to assign an action here, but I would like to work with whoever would like to work with me on getting this done and making this into an actionable piece of work that we do outside of what we normally do to try to get more PMI members in our club. One thing that didn't happen from last time that I was hoping would happen in this out-of-box thinking that we were trying to do was the fact that we have got a whole bunch of PMI venues around the city. And my thoughts were, with these list of PMI venues here, the Woodlands is the newest one that's not even listed. You think about, don't count College Station, but just the Houston area, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 main venues that are not the lunchtime venues that are happening now.
General Service and Clear Lake.
Is Clear Lake part of us? I didn't think it was
Yes.
part of PMI.
Yes, it is.
It's part of PMI, but it's not part of PMI Houston.
Houston's what I'm talking about, PMI Houston.
But local to us. It's still a
For
place.
Toastmasters, you're right, yes. So you can look at it that way also. The Houston chapter is what I was kind of focusing on. But just thinking about these 6 venues here, we're aligned with these 2 that are in green. And I didn't hear any ideas around trying to align with these other venues. In other words, we got a north and we got a central. What about, again, I'm not facilitator, I'm now not a facilitator role here. What about us going to them?
Sure.
We're depending on these 40 to 50 people to come, and more we want, to come to one of these 2 regional areas, but we got a whole bunch of others that we could do. And so I proposed to the board of directors at PMI Houston, and Lee has assured me that he has approved the sponsorship of a 3rd club. And so Katy, Sugar Land area is where I was focusing on doing that. And part of this venue, or part of what we just got through voting on, could be also tied in with getting another club started. So that is my spill for my ideas that I didn't get to share, didn't want to as a facilitator the last time, and I'll be working on that. I've got some other slides here on why we're doing it and the cost and actions around what to do in the club, and I'm out of time. And so because of that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it back over to our Toastmaster. Thank you very much for participating. It was a great discussion.
What a wealth of information. Bruce, I do believe you've done well. Timekeeper, may we have 1 minute, please?
Toastmaster, that's 1 minute.
Thank you. And I'm timing that all our speakers qualify.
Yes, they did.
Thank you. At this time, can we vote for the best speaker, please? Speakers were Sid Roger Capalin and Bruce Garrett.
We voting? We are making a note. That's true.
Has everyone submitted their votes?
Nope. Oh, thank you.
Good. Well, we're gonna move forward with the meeting. What was so interesting about Bruce's speech